Okay, WWE 24. This, of course, is on the women's evolution or revolution, however you look at it. I like the majority of it. I think it began very heavy-handed with showing, here's your Nobel Prize winner. Here's the the women's soccer team's going for equal pay. And it had all these other things going on. It was like, here's all these great contributions the women are making. And it's like, okay. So you use that to jumpstart your divas revolution. But then they talk about how women used to wrestle, and then that went away when it became like the bra and panties divas era. And then when they gave women a chance, they proved that they were good to go and they could do matches every bit as good as men. And then they got the push. I know they had to do the whole here's your more social media aspect. Here's your well, society had finally hit a point where women were looked at seriously. Yeah, using Oprah. Oprah's been around for decades. Ellen DeGeneres. Been successful for quite a few years. Wasn't a recent thing. The Ronda Rousey thing. Yes, several years of her being the top female athlete became the mixed martial arts. Yes, Cyborg as well. And I was like, okay. So you used all of those things. The women's soccer team. Yeah, but in the Olympics, there's always been female events as well. So there's always been female athletes for quite some time. For as long as I've been alive, there's been female athletes. There's been women's wrestling. I did notice that they kind of went from like, you would lead a Trish, and then NXT did this. And I was like, wait a minute. And then they're like, the Bellas were an important bridge between the Lita Trish era and the current era. You realize that you talk about the previous era was Lita and Trish, and they did a phenomenal job. And then you say the middle era kind of sucked. And that was your diva search time. That was when there were some women who you're like, you know what? You can probably go. You're surrounded by a bunch of women who really can't go. And that's when they got the random, really short, crappy matches. Even I think it was Maris talked about when she left, they were doing 5-minute matches. And when they tried to get her to come back, they were doing sub 3-minute matches. Now they're actually getting match times again, for the most part. So those aspects I actually really enjoyed. The heavy focus on like NXT did it. NXT put women's wrestling on the map because when I used to go to Shimmer events, Shimmer for me was amazing wrestling. It still is. As I said before many times, it's the one venue that I wish I had more time to go back to. Because it's a solid weekend, but it's a weekend of phenomenal women's wrestling. So for me, it's always seemed odd that they had good women's wrestling. Then they go through kind of a crappy period. Then they had 2 phenomenal female athletes in Trish and Lita. Even though Trish is the archetype that you can blame all the reasons for the divas on. She's a fitness model. She's attractive. But you know what? She learned the craft. Initially, she was not very good. Go back on the network and watch some old Trish matches. You're like, all right, Trish versus... Oh. This is before she got really good. Oh, Trish wasn't good at all. But then you see a couple of years, you're like, hey, you know what? That's a good match. It's a great match. Then you start people like Ivory, Victoria, Jazz, Jacqueline, Molly Holly. You take your 2 good ones and you branch out around them, and you had a really solid division. Great. And then as they begin to leave, that's your diva search time. Even though I will say, I went back and I watched some Candice Michelle Melina matches, and they're surprisingly pretty good. So you can tell that after Trish and Lita left, there was still some goodwill that just eroded away. When you go back and you read, Kelly beating Beth Phoenix to become champion, and you go, no, Kelly was horrible. And most of the Diva Search contestants really didn't pan out as well as they should have. There were some diamonds in the rough, yes. Where they found somebody who had athletic skill, the look that the front office wanted, and wasn't afraid to get hurt. Wasn't afraid to go out there and put it all on the line. But that primarily came from the fact that they were attractive and athletic. But they just did random caddy stuff the whole time. And it wasn't until NXT, and of course, Triple H has mentioned these because if you're someone who has kids and you want your kids to watch somebody that's uplifting, so we can probably thank the fact that he's got daughters. From going, Vince has never really been good at anything beyond male singles competitors. It was hard to have nice, robust tag divisions. It was only he found a tag team someplace else, brought them in. It was hard for him to grow a good organic tag division. Same as cruiserweights. Women, same thing. I think he was still probably upset with the Alundra Blaze bit, who, if you go back and watch your match with Bull Nakano, amazing. So you have these moments of really great, solid women's wrestling. And then you have a period where it kind of shifts down, and it sucks. Then it picks back up. Then it shifts down, then it sucks. Then it picks back up. So right now we're in an absolute renaissance of women's wrestling. And it was great seeing them focus on the 4 horsewomen. Now, I didn't say horse people. And the end of the Divas belt. But then they talked about the importance of there being 2 women's matches on WrestleMania. But the 10 Divas match was very much a throwaway match. It was one of those, need everyone together to have a match. It felt like whenever you see the random battle royal, where it was, you're going to be there, it's going to be great. They did discuss a couple of years ago how they actually lost a match on WrestleMania, which of course would have been Tons of Funk and the Funkadactyls versus Road Scholars and the Bellas. You got cut due to time. Okay. But it was unique seeing them talk about, we've got 2 matches. And if you look at the WrestleMania banner, front and center was the win for the triple threat match. Good. And now we're going to SummerSlam, and you've got Raw, which has the title, has a nice defined, here's what we're doing. SmackDown, no title, is in kind of the rebuilding era of trying to get things figured out. And they've got the thrown together tag match. But they've got the elements to make it work. So overall, good special. I probably would have reduced well, here's a photo of Beyonce. Here's a photo of Hillary Clinton. Here's a photo of Ellen DeGeneres. Here's a photo of Oprah. I know it was there for the social commentary, but if you talk about, yeah, man, wrestling was good for women, and then we did lingerie pillow fights and bra and panties matches, because that's what people wanted to see. People probably wanted to see that during the Trish and Lita era, just you had women who were trained who could go, who you let go, and just had good matches. But then they decided to shy away from the actual athletes and just go more towards a model side, with the occasional athlete kind of just petered in there. Now we're back to athletes again. So if you take athletes, put them in athletic competition, they're going to excel. If you take models who are not athletes, put them in athletic competition, they're going to have to learn to become athletes. And if they don't have the internal drive to do that, and there's not the system around them to make that actually work, that's when you have the Divas division.